Let's see. I think I've covered everything. Thank you, Zappletech. Send your questions. Don't be shy. It's all cool. And with that, I have got online over here Supita. I'm no wait, hang on. Sudipta. I'm going to get your name right. I so apologize. But welcome to the Zappletech Meetup. Thank you so much for taking some time with us.
Sure. Thank you so much, Paul, for introducing me and giving me the opportunity to speak in this virtual summit. Um, this is basically, I am coming from Cisco Digital Assurance and Automation team, where I am working on the test automation on a decade over there. Um, so I just wanted to have a quick introduction myself and what we are going to talk about. Let's see how this can be taken care of. So let me first bring up my slide, and hopefully my slides are visible over here. So good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever the geographical region you are joining over here. Today, I am Sudipta Debnath, technical leader of digital assurance and automation from Cisco Systems Customer Experience Group. I'm going to take you through a journey of artificial intelligence in test automation. When we talk about the artificial intelligence, is a vast thing to understand. Today's session, I will quickly walk you through how artificial intelligence can be a game changer in automation testing and how Cisco is visualizing at this point of time to accelerate our internal test automation story. So let's start our overview. So, what are we going to cover up today? What is the biggest challenge in test automation? Understand the artificial intelligence, how AI is going to define the testing industry to move from practice to performance. It's Paul has mentioned the chat gpt. I will not get into any proprietary information or any specific information, but I'm going to give an idea how the open AI is going to change the automate the test automation. When we talk about automate the test automation, is that a myth or is it really doable? How you will design the automation model and how we see as a Cisco as an organization envision business impact and key takeaways from this session. So let's start. So 2 years ago, 2020, 2021, when the whole industry was going to a revolutionary change in all aspect and world was going through a revolutionary change, that time we perform a survey. So we basically conduct a poll across various customers, internal users who are very frequently use the test automation frameworks, and potential stakeholders, to ask them that what is your biggest challenge in test automation. So people gave us different feedback. For few people, learning curve, whatever the test automation does or any industry standard tool does, learning curve is a big aspect. Few says that inputting data set, how I wish should scope my test automation. I do not know that. I'm not very confident how I scope it off. Few says that the test coverage, how I should bring the efficiency. Okay, I'm doing the test automation already, but how I can make it more efficient. So out of that poll result, we just analyze it and we find it out. Determining the scope of test automation is a 85% to 90% challenging situation for most of the testing industry. Then second comes, if you can follow the graph in the right hand side of the presentation, making the test automation reusable. What do I mean by that? How repetitively I can use my test automation, that's a challenge. Automation of test script generation, automation of test workflow generation, there is a challenge, but that is not so prominent, because when we talk about test automation, mostly we think about how to automate the test execution process. So our conclusion is that At present, there are no test automation solution which can automatically predict or define the scope for a tester or a test engineer what to test, how to test. And there is nothing as such exist in the industry that with the zero human intervention, how tester can automatically design a test suite, execute it, and publish a result. So definitely we do have certain solutions and certain industry standards, and market is test automation market is basically built up with how faster we can automate the test suite, how faster we can execute it. But zero human intervention, this is still a myth. So if you see overall the market of the test automation, the challenges are as follows: determine the scope of test automation automatically, how we should decide a right set of test automation to test a product, how we should make it reusable, how we should make it repeatable, automate the test script generation. For every test automation framework there is some manual work involved, and that is where we call or we differentiate test automation engineer from the manual test automation, from the manual test engineer as well, right? So how good it could be if you can have a framework which can automatically identify the testing scope, right set of test cases to be pushed into for a product to test, test script should be generated automatically, and decide the test workflow automatically. So our intention is multiple direction, right? We basically would like to left shift the whole test automation process from execution to the scoping. And over there, we would like to find out the how we should automate the test automation process. In today's discussion, let us see how artificial intelligence can target to solve these challenges. So, before we start, how artificial intelligence would be impacting this whole test automation industry, let us understand a quick overview about what is artificial intelligence. So, as the quotation goes by, statistics shows only one third of the industry can actually achieve the return on investment on today's business on test automation. While cloud occupies a heavy part of our test automation industry and targets to set up with next level computing power, access to the new kinds of data sets, but what we believe that artificial intelligence can build up a bridge to convert that data into a business value. So artificial intelligence is basically a process that is going to simulate human intelligence process by machine, and especially to the computer system. That's the biblical language or the biblical definition of artificial intelligence. When we come towards the machine learning, it requires a deep learning, supervision, unsupervised situations, and many aspects has to be covered up. So if we see in a very broad aspect of the artificial intelligence, it can be categorized into some 6 to 7 categories. Machine learning plays a very key role for that, which heavily impacts the test automation industries. Natural language processing, as Paul mentioned, the chat GPT, like you speak, we decode what is your requirement and convert it into the test automation requirement, right? And mostly vision and speech recognition. Speech recognition is, of course, the part of any OpenAI system, but vision like image recognition, when you suppose when you are automating a UI testing, how you are recognizing your UI images, that is also can be fit through the artificial intelligence. And of course robotics, where we talk about you can automate the process, test execution process, you can automate the physical interface and device testing through the robotics, right? Now let's see that different types of artificial intelligence, how it interacts with our test automation industry. So artificial intelligence is not a very new concept. In 2016, in a journal, Aaron Hinz, who is the professor of integrative biology and computer science in the Michigan State University, he explained that AI can be categorized into four types: reactive, limited memory, theory of mind, and self-aware. So when we talk about in the test automation to be driven by the artificial intelligence, we basically would like to consume all these four pillars in a religious way, where we can understand what we would like to do by the test automation framework. And you as a human, or you as a consumer of the test automation framework, how intelligent you would like to build it up. So, AI defines basically the testing industry to move from practice to performance. In any organization, whenever we go for test automation, right, we always define that what is the scope of test automation. Test automation basically targets to execute the test cases or execute the test scenarios which is repetitive in nature, right? So, for any kind of regression testing, it could be software regression testing, it could be the system integration regression testing, test automation is must to have need for any organization. But is that the only thing you need for the test automation? Answer could be no, or answer could be I would like to make it more efficient. So when we talk about the efficiency, AI can target further into the left side of the test automation process. Before the test automation execution being started, you need to understand how to generate the test cases. So AI targets to solve that problem, automatically generate test using an algorithm, automation code for various test ecosystems and test data. Uh, then next comes into test optimization. So any organization should be having a huge legacy test assets, because we are very old into this market, right? So how we can convert them to a minimal set of test cases so that we can define a very strict scope which would be the business critical automatically. The last but not least point, the test execution, we cannot underestimate that part as well, right? So when we talk about test execution, do you really need every time an automation engineer to investigate the test report? Do you want them to analyze it manually every time? Or whenever you are changing a piece of code, would you like to analyze that what all test cases has to be run against it? How good it could be if an AI driven model can exactly find out what all test cases has to be executed against that piece of code, and continuously keep on comparing the test results with the history that you have already executed in past and dynamically detect changes and regression. So AI model can target to do the test analysis and test execution automatically. Suppose today you are executing a test suite where the three test cases, or say four test cases, have been failed which were passing in your previous run. So model can identify whether it is a defect coming into your piece of code, or whether you have changed a piece of code for that, your test script has to be changed and re-executed. So AI can target all this practice to the performance. Now let's see how automation, the test automation, that is what I call it, is that a myth? In traditional approach, if you can follow the right side of the presentation, there is a workflow I have just put over there. In traditional test automation approach, we basically use to analyze, identify automation goals. If the framework exists, then define the scope of test. If the test bed exists, identify that how we should implement the executions and implement it and review the test cases and go for the maintenance. In case you do not have the framework over there, then design and implementation is another challenge. So reality check of the test automation. Most of the test automation, our scope is very limited to the automation of test execution process. In most cases, today industry is moving very faster and we get into a term called the agile testing, right? While we consider that CI/CD or DevOps is a crucial part of the software development lifecycle, it is also important to consider only automating the test execution is no more a cost beneficial for any organization, right? We need to think more. And automation also need to consider how the scope and all those things has to be identified. So a predictive data model is needed to identify the input data set, consider the automate the test automation process. Now, let us think in little different way. If we have a framework that will automate defining the scope of test or help us to identify the automation goals automatically or generates the combination of all test data, it, it is going to reduce our work. It is going to reduce our scope of work. I'm not saying that the human intervention will get off at the very first level, but it is a continuous process how you can make the data model more matured and build up a mature data model where all these things which is being done today manually that can be reduced. So there are four pillars we can consider when we come into the AI driven model, right? Automate the test model construction, automate the test case identification, automate the test data creation, and optimize the automated test script generation. So this is what these four pillars build the automate the test automation. Now, how we should design a test automation model. So as a first step, um, I would just like to highlight the very first step to design a test automation model is that building up a reusable test libraries and define the scope of testing. We call it as test accelerator packages. So you can see here Cisco as an organization, they are in process of building the test accelerator packages or reusable test libraries depending on various architecture, platform, and product which we deliver to the customer. So first thing first, we have categorized our business on all these colored pillars, and deliverables have been identified or bucketized in each of this category. And you can see for every category we are in process of building test accelerator packages. Now question comes, how often I should modify it? Of course, whenever there is a change in a platform or whenever there is a new features are being added into the architecture, you have to revisit. You have to keep this process ongoing dynamically. But as a very first step towards the AI model creation, first define or bucketized your business into the categories. Then how you define the consumption model of this reusable package. So we categorized it as a pre-built test validation script. So every test accelerator package will have the test validation script. And we categorized it as day 0, day 1 extended, day 2, all this category. For your business it could be different. I'm just bringing up an example to give a flavor how the model generation can be taken place. So you have defined the business pillar, you have defined how the test consumable packages can be done, and you are associating the reusable packages along with that. Is that so? My baseline of the architecture is being prepared at this point of time. Now, next tip is that automation the test model. So you might be using a test framework which is already in place in your organization for a decade or over the period, and it is giving a very fruitful result. Now, every framework, whenever they execute the test execution, they generate certain output. And those output, we call it as the report. Now, automation test model is a simplistic AI driven model which will cover automated modeling of all reusable test assets in a specific domain. I explained in the previous slide that how domain and test accelerator packages are being correlated. Now, that particular input has to be fed into your model, and model will automatically be able to identify for a specific domain what all test cases has to be executed. If it is able to do that, then of course it will be able to do that automated script identification also for ready for execution, which is associated with those reusable test assets. And before the test execution starts, it from your past execution data, model will be able to analyze what input data have been already consumed, and it will identify a pattern which will be related or associated with your platform feature change or product feature change, and how the product line is being emulated. That should be designing part of the model will be automatically being handled. So in a baseline statement, the automation test model should be able to recognize the pattern of code change or product change or feature change automatically, design the input test set data, linked it with your reusable test asset, and identify the automated test script to be executed. And finally, your test execution report will be forwarded to your existing test management framework. And from there, you can see that test coverage output plus requirement coverage mapping plus how it is being executed and what the result. So test model will analyze all the data and will be able to generate the outcome in a single pane of view. Makes sense? But the journey is not very easy here. Okay. So to start this model creation, I have just given, I have just tried to bring into the board what should be the way to do that. um, in organization level, we are still in process of doing that, because you can see that the process is not a very easy piece of cake. So first thing first, we have to first prepare a data analysis model. So take all existing set of test case, categorize them, perform the data analysis. Next piece of work would be milestone would be prepare a data model. So when you prepare a data model, remove the redundant test cases, rank those test cases based on their actual execution frequency from past. So you have to create the model generating all your past execution data that you might have already in hand, optimize the existing test cases, categorize them linked with code module or the platform module. In some cases, code may not be applicable if you are not in the software industry. In case of network testing, you might be changing the devices, upgrading the devices. So linked with that particular module. Link the data model with the code base while performing code check, outset a trigger to choose proper set of test cases using the data model. So the data model has to be fed back into your code base, and revise the data model with your input whenever you execute. So data model cannot be built up in a single shot. It has to be churned into dynamic iterative way. Feed the model, revise, train it, find out how accurate results you are getting out of it. And that is why your predictive test identification model would be built up and finally would be ready for your consumption. Why we talk about it? What is the business impact it is going to bring it out? So first thing first is that faster execution of your test automation is needed. There were certain point of time in our industry when people were running behind the test automation just because we have to optimize the test execution process. Industry has moved from that era, so we need to understand nowadays if we would like to bring out the test automation impact in our execution process or delivery process, we need to think much faster. And thinking much faster means you have to identify the whole test automation process in much faster way. And that is where AI driven test automation predictive data model is needed. Where we talk about continuous testing, accelerated deployments, there it is a boom to the market. When we talk about unification of our all test automation assets as part of CI/CD city, because DevOps is acquiring a very huge market, and there is no concept of traditional test automation process nowadays. So if you would like to market the test automation process as part of your agile process or agile methodology, we have to move much faster. And that is where the business impact comes into the picture. How automatically you can define a AI driven test model integrated with the CI/CD DevOps framework that can take your build from development lab to pre-production lab to production lab. That is where it is needed. Make the system level testing, solution level testing much faster. That is where the business impact comes into the picture. We have done certain analysis on the projected return on investment based on our um, effort in towards this work. So manual scripting, I am earlier days it used to take 30 minutes. When we jump into the test script generation or the test flow execution, it used to take 10 minutes. Now automated test script generations with AI driven model, our prediction that this will get into 2 minutes, cut down the time of execution into 2 minutes. So you can expect effort savings of 67 to 90% for automated test script generation. A self-healing process, which is part of any AI driven data model. So traditional approach, you have to do the analysis, you have to go back to the system, then again you have to edit everything and get into 10 minutes time to identify that how the test script has to be updated, right? AI based model will do it in 4 minutes time. That is what the expected output, where the self healing of your test script will not take much time. So you are essentially going to do an effort saving of 60% over there. So key takeaways. When we are talking for the continuous testing, the approach of the data driven model has to be a microservice based architecture so that you can easily deploy it, easily integrate with any industry standard test automation framework. Vendor agnostic delivery life cycle, we are compatible with, we can talk about that data model has to be compatible with NetOps DevSecOps approach, which is quite prominent in today's industry standards. The process automation, the a framework which is easy to use, do not need extensive training to handle, because understanding the test automation framework, how to use it in your project, it's always cumbersome. So you can consider a test automation model. If you are driven it with by AI, it would be a single shop for your all type of test automation. um, we are working towards it. Any options, suggestions from this open forum, I'm ready to hear, offline, online, anything, I'm ready to answer. Any clarification you need. So at this point of time, our Test AI driven test model is able to improve 50% time to market. We are seeing a continuous growth of our business with this implementation. We are looking forward to make it more robust with OpenAI framework, uh, which should be marketable for all our extensive customers and in general can be built up a concept overall, right? So if anything over here you would like to questions, I'm happy to help. Else you can reach out to me at any point of time. This is my contact details and my organization manager contact details. You can reach either of us or both of us. I would be happy to help out. So with this I close my call over here and hand it over back to Paul again. So that's pretty much from my side today.
Thank you, Sudipta. So I'm going to try and keep you on for a few more minutes. Actually, you actually went short, so I'm trying to hopefully we can have a few questions and have. I'm asking some people on here. We do have about 30 minutes until our next speaker. So I'm going to go look and remind everybody, if you jump onto the YouTube channel, if you jump to this stream from LinkedIn, that's great. We appreciate that. But you can also find this streaming off of YouTube. And if you jump into the YouTube channel, you can actually ask questions on the chat over there and do some stuff there. So one of the questions we got over there was from Alyssa Okini. I hope I didn't mess it up too much. And Alyssa was asking, what are the 4 types of AI that I guess you may have mentioned during the presentation? Can you address that?
Yeah. So, 4 types of AI are being categorized by reactive, limited memory, theory of mind, and self aware. So, reactive AI is considered that where it has no memory, only responds to a different stimuli, like you reply, I reply, right? This is called the reactive. The way the model is being formed in such a way, like you get certain things to be immediately answered by the model, right? Answered by the AI model. So if you are using, say, for example, Chat GPT or any OpenAI framework, you just ask the question. If the backend AI model has the exact matching pattern of your question being asked, it will immediately reply to you. That is called the reactive AI model. Then next come to the limited memory. Limited memory means it uses memory to learn and improve its responses, right? So what does that mean? It means in your AI model, there should be a memory engaged over there. So if your model is not able to answer certain questions which is not being recognized as a predefined pattern in the data model, then any new keyword it is coming from the user, it is getting into as a feedback into the data model. So data model will store that particular new ask or new question as a new pattern over there, and it will fed into the system so that it can do its own analysis to find the closest match and provide you the closest replicable, closest accurate answer over there. That is what we call limited memory. Then next come third one comes the theory of mind. Theory of mind means understands the need of other intelligent entities. That means the data model should be intelligent on its own to recognize any new pattern of questions or new pattern of design and fed into the system and find out the closest option available over there. So there is a difference between limited memory and theory of mind. Don't get confused between these two, okay? Limited memory means is just fed the answer, doesn't recognize the pattern, but theory of mind means it will recognize the new pattern, find out where it can match it, shows you all probable alternative solutions that you are looking from the pattern database have being carried by the AI model, right? The fourth one is the self-aware model. Okay, so self-aware model is like human-like intelligence, and it's a self-awareness. It's as part of the many researches, this model is doesn't exist as of now. You can search over there. There is a huge paper has been published by MSU on that. The human like intelligence and self awareness model is considered as the next generation model where our all regular works, if you think about it, not only the test automation industry, our all regular daily lives work will be replaced by a machine, and that machine would be operated by a data model. That is what we call the self aware model. So these are all four prominent structures of, or four different types of AI as per my knowledge. I hope I'm able to answer the question.
That was great. In fact, what I was thinking of is I'm going to start a quick demo over here, and we can maybe chat about this because I've been playing with ChatGPT this week,
Yep.
and it blows my mind. It hits at least two, if not four, of your errors points over there. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show you what ChatGPT looks like over here. We should be able to see that in just a moment. Let me see if that will.
So while you are bringing up that, Paul, I think I see one question is that
Oh yeah, go ahead.
over there from Atul, he asked, "Can you explain accelerators better, please?" So Atul, we have designed one accelerator. Actually, I must say we are in process of designing this test accelerator, which still under investigation over organization level. But our goal is that through this accelerator, we would like to define all domain specific test scenarios to be automated and define the scope whenever there is a platform change happens automatically. So we called it as a test accelerator because it has got all predefined domain specific reusable test assets accumulated. That is where. And if you would like to get a demo about it, I didn't bring the demo because it's a proprietary information, so I would be happy to get connected with you offline.
Okay, cool. I just changed my name over here to ChatGPT. Let me put that back as Paul. I was thinking I had a screen. So let me ask you. Okay, here we go. So I've got my screen shared over here, and this is ChatGPT. If anyone hasn't seen this yet, uh, basically what you can do is you can ask it any question, and I've been asking it all sorts of stuff about JavaScript, like how let's say, how can I create a dictionary in JavaScript? We'll do that just off the top of my head. Did I spell it right? And it sits there and thinks about it, and then it starts giving us a response that tells us what it does. And it also throws in code as it writes on the fly, describing on how I can create a dictionary, how values are in there, how I can set it up. Uh, would you say this is hitting your first requirement for AI on in your list of four out there?
Yeah, it is basically getting interlinked with the third one, what we are talking about
Okay.
in theory of mind, so that it can find out what are all probable options. I just want to add one more point over here, Paul, as well, because see, certain things have are the open to use for the entire forum. Certain things, there is a Google speech recognition system which can be integrated with any AI driven model, where you can speak and the speech can be recognized and can bring out all the information from your data model. That is one solution. um, we are working internally in the organization level to make our delivery management process much faster. you know test automation is one pillar, but when you talk about agile process or agile delivery process, there is a scrum management, there is people invest a lot of time over there. So your
Yep.
project management can made easier with such model as well. So that is where the chat GPT comes into the live picture.
Cool. You did mention that one of the things was kind of remembering what was said before. So I'm going to try this. Convert to TypeScript. We'll do that. I feel like I should say convert to TypeScript, please. I've been playing with it so much. It feels like a real person. Like, I demand you to change all my code and make it work. So it says to convert Java's code to create a dictionary object. And so it remembered that I was talking about a dictionary object in JavaScript, and now it's converting to TypeScript. So now it creates a type of that. So it's actually having memory of what my discussion was as it chugged along over here.
Yeah.
So I think that was your third. Was it your third one? I forget which one was the
Yes.
one where.
Third one, the theory of mind.
Theory of mind, which is pretty cool. Let's see if there's any other questions here. Let's see. How much of future testing will automation over manual testing? How much of future testing will be automation over manual testing?
If you
Sure.
can implement a AI driven data model, industry is claiming it's 99.99%. It's a hard figure to achieve, but people are thinking in that direction. There are a lot of things are happening on the test automation industry where last year in Starist 2022, there was a virtual summit has been presented where people were talking about making test automation 100% over manual testing, which is a very, very, what I must say that it's a unrealistic figure, but there is a chance that where our all daily work or all manual effort into a fully automation model. And if you think about in little broader perspective, if we can make it out a AI driven data model, our manual testing is going to be much more reduced. In what sense, if you ask me, the question is that there will be a certain point of time where your code being changed and test automation model will be able to detect what to test automatically, right? A human intervention will not be needed. So we are not talking about that manual testers will not be there in the industry. There definitely certain amount of things has to be carried through manual testing unless the code is stabilized. But if there is a data model, it can definitely get into in that space.
Cool. I do see a kind of a downside is that I'm awake 8 to 16 hours a day, and this thing can be up 24 hours a day. And I could come into work in the morning and find it's assigned me a lot of work to get done during the day. Um, I also say, as you to the point, trying to get to 100, 99.999% four nines of, right now we talk about uptime, four nines uptime, where everything's always up and not down. Automation of 99%, I don't see that ever actually becoming a reality, even with this thing over here. I would like to tell managers when I talk to them, sometimes I hear, I'll ask them, what is the coverage that we're looking to do for automation? And they'll say 100%. And I'm sorry, we're getting a little
Yeah,
side chat from Marcus Merrill.
even after 100% coverage also we get more, if many more issues from the production when
Yes,
the product gets into. So this
yes.
100% test coverage is realistic figure, or is it a can we justify it? So your AI driven test model can do it automatically, that justification, right? So basically you feed into the data and you find out how good test coverage it is going to given. And there is a concept of code coverage also. When we talk about the code coverage, we often talks about the unit testing to be performed against that specific piece of the code. So if you can extend this model beyond your system testing and all, um, this can give an exemplary result for unit testing as well. You can identify what to be tested against that input data set.
It's great. As I was saying, I try to talk people off the ledge of 100% automation because there are just areas that you just can't automate. The way I look at it is, if you get to, it's like the grading that we had in school. If you got 90%, that's an A. You get 80%'s a B. 70, 60. If you're below 60%, you're like, you didn't quite make the grade on that.
Above
Um,
90%, anything is still A. So it doesn't matter
yes,
90 to 100 what you are doing.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. Oh man. So I did ask it another question. I asked it over here. How can I click a button in Cypress? And it sat there and said, "Oh yeah, you can do. Here's how you do Cypress." And then basically gave a button name, which isn't quite that, but it did give us a CSS button as an example, which is fine. Uh, and convert. I'm going to say convert that to XPath, since that's on here, since we're having a lot of fun over here. Anybody have any questions on that you want me to ask the chat GPT? Oh, we got another question coming here. Let's see. Alyssa asked, what coding language is most in demand for 2023 if I want to make myself more marketable? So Peter?
Okay, so as per my knowledge, this 2023 we are heading towards Python mostly. So Python is the most prominent language at this point of time. But nonetheless, people are also interested in working on JavaScript, Cypress, and all those. These are also marketable. So it depends on which industry you are targeting for. So depending on that, the definition of marketable gets changed, so that is what you need to study, and you need to find out that how this thing goes on.
Yeah, I would agree on that. Python and JavaScript. I've been working in JavaScript for the last 2 years, working in WebDriver IO. So I did learn some interesting things about promises and sync awaits and all sorts of stuff on that. One of the things I tell people is that there is something called, I'm going to call it today, the Hello World of Test Automation. And what that is, it's the first script you write, which is put in my username, put in my password, and click the login button. That's Hello World for automation. And I realized the first few weeks I was working in JavaScript was that because it had different threads, it could actually execute those in any sort of order. So it would click the login button, put in my username and my password, and generate an error. And then I'd have to say, okay, this is new. Usually my scripts go in order, but because the internet is, has been long since defined as we need to get everything up there as fast as possible. Let's have multiple threads build a page. It's great for building a web page, but it's really wonky for trying to have an automation script go through steps in the correct order. Let's see. I have a couple more questions over here. Alyssa was actually Jay Sean was actually responding to Alyssa. Let's
Yeah,
see.
I
Go
think
ahead.
Martin asked a question: how can we use ChatGPT within our organization with proprietary knowledge base and governance? There is certain challenge, Martin. So if you see that your organization has a very strict policy of using any open source product, then you might not be able to use it, which is applicable in case of our organization. So we couldn't use chat gpt as it is. So what we have done, we have used rasa framework, which is an alternative of the chat gpt. We got connected with the google speech recognition system, and we build it up on an internal framework which is equivalent to chat gpt for your proprietary knowledge base and governance. So what basically chat gpt does at this point of time, it has got an ai model in the backend which will retrieve any information available across the data model being fed up with the pattern recognition system and pull it out as an answer in the screen, as you can see, right? So same thing you can develop on your own in your organization if open source is not supported across many organization. So you can define a data model, feed it over there, your entire knowledge base of your organization, and get the information out of that. And of course organization has different pillar where cross information are not being shared. So this kind of tool is more useful for any organization to be consumed when you would like to know that what other business unit is doing in the same line.
I was hoping for a different answer from ChatGPT. I asked something similar last week, and it says, I'm not connected to the internet, so I don't know what this is all about. And I just asked, who is Taylor Swift? And it goes, oh, yeah, well, this is Taylor Swift. I'm like, where are you getting this information? This has nothing to do with automation, but it did come up with a very good description of Taylor Swift. Can you tell us, is the tool that you're talking about with your you're working with, is that available to people who are listening here?
Yeah, that is available, but it's cisco proprietary information, and inside we are like selling it as a service. We call it as an intelligent chat ops engine, ice. You may not be able to see it inside cisco because it's still under development. So
Okay.
what we are trying to do, so cisco basically use internal messenger called webex, and cisco has a good business over there. So we have developed a ai model integrated with a messenger. It could be any messenger. You can use microsoft teams or you can use gtalk, anything like that. But the flavor is that you build up a data model, you go ahead with your knowledge base or internal knowledge base and governance and security process to be connected with your data model, feed it as an input to your data model, and then get connected with your internal organization messenger space and get it done with how to control your all over releases. Suppose you would like to find out a piece of code, right? You would like to do some device testing or device upgrade, L3 VPN upgrade. So you just say into your chat messenger saying that L3 VPN upgrade is needed. And that will give you all the options how this should be done. So it's basically a bot in front ends like a chat GPT, and back end your data model is being fed up by all your knowledge base and governance over there. And that is how the whole scenario works out.
Great. I'm not sure if I've got the right page over here. I did get ISE, but I think you said it was ICE.
No, you
But
will not get it, Paul,
I won't.
because
Okay.
it's a internal thing, and we do not disclose all internal things into the
Not a problem. I get that. I get that. Cisco is actually a wonderful company. Hell, I'd throw up their stock price if I could. Um, uh, I actually tried to get a job over there at Cisco, but the problem is there's people who are so much more smarter than I am out there. But it is a great company. It's been around for a very long time. Everywhere I go, when there's anything that's got some servers sitting in a back room with a nice air conditioning unit next to it, there's a Cisco server sitting out there helping making sure the systems are working correctly. Um, and I don't mind giving you giving Cisco a shout out. There's I don't know of anybody else in the industry. I think they're number one in the industry in what they do. So and they do have a lot of cool products and services out there. Um, So do check out Cisco. Let's see. I got something else popped up here. Let's see. Um, Renuka.
Yes. So, Renuka, to answer your question, we use existing test automation. We use open source test framework. We use Cypress also as an open source test framework to feed out in our test automation. Um, you can, but that doesn't restrict you to use your own technology. If you have some in-house built test automation framework, you can definitely feed out in your AI driven test automation model. So understand one thing is that AI driven test automation is a concept. How we interpret it in a different level of industry in different region, that matters. Today might be in the networking side. Cisco is a networking company, but we have a software presence also. So networking and software domain we are interpreting in a different way. But if you get into, say, for microbiology domain and all those stuff, there also certain amount of testing happens. Bank domain also that happens. So whatever test automation tool is there for your particular domain or particular uh, product line, you can definitely feed it into your AI driven test model. There is no bar or no restrictions in terms of the language, testing language. So it's the concept, how you implement it, how we do it, how we make it mature. That's the part.
Great. I did also have an experience recently where something I've been doing for about 15 years, which is an industry called self-healing objects. And I've written code where it's like, okay, the developer decided this link is now going to be a button, but all my scripts are broken because they were expecting a link descriptor. And I put in code that says, hey, if you can't find it as a script as a link, go find it as a button, and it finds the button with the exact same stuff. Interestingly enough, in a meeting, someone looked at that guy and says, "Oh, that's AI stuff. I know all about that." And I'm like, "It's close. Yeah, And he was high enough level. I said, "Yeah, you're right. It is AI. Yes, it is." And I'm like, "It's not. It's just me writing some clever code." Um, but where's my point on that? There can be confusion between what's truly AI and what is just a lot of people writing clever code to make it look like it's actually AI. And I don't really have a problem either way. It's whatever way you solve the problem is fine as far as I'm concerned. Any thoughts on that?
So I would like to say one point over here. So AI has I as I said that AI has a strong presence in machine learning, right? And how we make the machine to learn our requisite or requirement, that matters. The other part is that when we talk about AI is closely associated with the robotics. So what do you understand by robotics? Means you give the instruction in a human readable format and machine understands that, but what functions being executed by the machines we do not know as a human. So this conversion of this natural language processing unit, NLPU, which sits between the machine to work and the human readable format, that is being defined by AI. Earlier days of AI, it has been talked about it's talked about applied intelligence. So how you apply the intelligence of the machine to understand what you would like to get as an outcome, that is overall concept of AI is not a very new concept. It is just how we are interpreting it as part of the test automation that matters.
Yeah, it's good. We only got about a minute left over here, so don't I don't see anything else going on that we have any additional questions. So, Sabina, any final closing remarks? Anything you want to talk about with Cisco? So, floor is yours.
Not related to Cisco. I would just like to make all the participants thanks for their to attending my session. I wanted to give a flavor that AI driven concept is not very new. We all are handling it by knowing or unknowingly in our test automation industry, but this is the time that we should proactively measure and consider that how it should be part of the AI driven data model. um, Thank you all for attending this session, and I hope to get connected. Anyone is interested to have in future discussions on from this session out. Thanks, Paul.